Hello, my name's Irfan, and this presentation is called Scratch 2.0 From Play to Possibility Thinking. So Scratch 2.0 is a computer program aimed at children to enable them to program and create really amazing animations and games and interactive kind of programs. And the reason why I've chosen to focus on this is because I genuinely believe that the type of creativity children are able to produce as a result of using the program is something quite unique. The motto of the program is to imagine, to program and share, and I think all three of those keywords have a really important connotation for the type of creativity that Scratch enables. On their website, they say that Scratch helps young children to learn to think creatively, reason systematically, and work collaboratively, which are essential skills for life in the 21st century, and I absolutely agree. So here we can see an example of some of the projects available made by users of the Scratch community. What's really amazing is the fact that within the Scratch community, micro communities exist in which users identify themselves as maybe gamers or girls who code or people who are just creating really funny memes and want that audience and that real purpose. So Scratch gives users a specific identity which is interchangeable, which can develop and shift over time. So here we have a quote from a 13-year-old who uses the Scratch website. It says, "I like Scratch better than blogs or social networking sites like Facebook because we're creating interesting games and projects that are fun to play, watch and download. I don't like to just talk to other people online. I like to talk about something creative and new." And I think this quote is so key in the argument that I'm going to be making in this presentation, because it's all about creating and it's about the aspect of sharing this with other people and developing that sense of social creativity. So here we have a screenshot from the Scratch website, and what we can see is that on the right hand side, Scratch works by connecting blocks together, instruction blocks. On the left we can see the output, so the program or the animation or the game that the child creates. What's really amazing about Scratch is it doesn't just limit you to programming, I don't know, a turtle on the screen. What's really great is that it allows you to create really intricate or even complex programs as well as really simple ones, but it also connects different aspects of creativity, so artistic creativity or design creativity or even things like engineering creativity can all be kind of combined using Scratch. So there are several affordances Scratch offers. So for example, it's easy to use, so it's explicitly designed for children. It's simplistic in the way that it works. This extends to the way that programming occurs, so we're using blocks and we're connecting it, quite similar in some respects to Lego. So it's a not too difficult concept to kind of grasp in terms of sequencing instructions. It's also logical, which means that children can follow it very simply, and it doesn't require a lot of prerequisite knowledge as to how to program. As well as that, there are thousands of possibilities, from very simple programs to being created to really, really complex, and it truly never ceases to amaze me looking at the Scratch community and looking at some of the example projects available, how complex a tool it can be, but also how simplistic as well. And I think that means that for different people, Scratch can mean different things, and I think that that's a wonderful thing. The online forum, so the community of users, there's an amazing dialogue. There's the ability to comment on other people's work, to share ideas, or even describe when you're stuck or solutions to other people's problems. It really does support in this kind of shared knowledge, this shared understanding of programming concepts. What's also really good is the ability on the Scratch website to remix projects. You're able to take someone's project, click a remix button, and then you're able to add your own components to it, or even to extend it or change it as much or as little as you want. And the reason why this is so amazing is because it's shared knowledge over time. It's not just one person's work. By adding to it, even if it's something very small, it becomes yours, and the ways of creating that program by the original user is kind of passed on, and it's something very, very unique. Also, what's great about Scratch is the fact that it's useful inside and outside of the classroom. I, as a computing teacher, use it quite often. I find it a very amazing program to use in the classroom, because it once you've learnt the concepts behind connecting blocks together, it's very, very straightforward for children to be able to continue that and then apply other concepts or other thinking or knowledge or skills to that to kind of support them in developing other ideas based on what they've already learned. But what's really great as well is that learning continues outside of the classroom. I very often have children who come to me and tell me about what they've been making at home, or they ask me to go onto the Scratch website and look at their work and kind of give them that real life feedback. But equally, that learning doesn't stop in the classroom, and we can only ever want to not kind of nurture that ability to kind of continue learning, in their own time. And finally, the probably the most important affordance of Scratch is the fact that it combines those knowledge and skill from other domains. It's certainly a very multidisciplinary kind of program, because it allows you to create lots of different things, and it's so wonderful that it can combine everything under the kind of umbrella of programming. So the question I'm going to attempt to try and answer is whether Scratch fosters creativity in children and young people. Is it a tool that enables real, true creativity, or is it something else altogether? And the lens I really hope to look at this from is kind of possibility thinking. Does Scratch offer a real way of accessing that possibility thinking and developing that little C creativity? Because we know that at the heart of little C creativity is possibility thinking. And even whether that extends to either end of that kind of spectrum or of that thinking, does it develop, or does it support in the development of mini C creativity, or even on the boundaries of big C creativity? So no presentation on creativity would be complete without at least trying to define what creativity is. Even though it's quite a difficult process, there are quite a few definitions of what creativity might be with regards to different perspectives or different kind of theoretical backgrounds to them. The kind of definition I like is from Bowden 2004, who says that creativity is the ability to come up with ideas or artifacts that are new, surprising and valuable. And I think that that's very much linked to my kind of perception as to what I think creativity is personally. But for this kind of question and for my focus, I really want to look at what the difference between mini C, little c and big C creativity is. We know that mini C creativity is about that kind of novel and personal meaning interpretation of experiences, action and events. And the difference between that and little C creativity, at least as I understand it, is that little C creativity is the kind of everyday creativity, or at least the precursor to that kind of the kind of bigger, more dramatic and even paradigm shifting big C creativity. So with creativity in mind, we need to start to look at the bigger picture. And for my focus, the bigger picture is the ways in which childhood has changed. The 21st century and the kind of the wave of technology and ubiquitous internet access has really changed the way that childhood kind of exists. The kind of pervasiveness of digital technology and internet access means that children exist in the real world. They're still children, but there's another dimension to that. They also exist within a digital cultural space, which is offered by kind of new media and mass media. As well as this, because of their kind of marketized childhood that Kraft spoke about in her work, children have become not only consumers of the media and the information and that kind of shared knowledge, but they've also become producers, which means that their kind of position within a kind of society has changed, it's shifted, as it were. So now we find ourselves in a place where children and young people are now empowered. Digital technology, these digital cultural spaces, the media offer children a power that they've never had before. And the argument that is made in a lot of crafts literature suggests that there is a kind of an argument between whether children really are empowered or whether they're still at risk, and the technology that's offered around them is of a significant danger to them in their lives. So Scratch offers many opportunities for possibility thinking, and Craft writes in quite a lot of detail about describing possibility thinking in her work, and also in some of her colleagues' work as well. She describes the kind of features of possibility thinking as things like play, question posing, responding, self-determination, intentional action, development, being imaginative, immersion, innovation, and risk-taking. And what is quite amazing is the fact that Scratch as a online tool enables these features to kind of take place. So for example, some children may only engage with the website as a play activity. They may just be experimenting and trying new things out, which leads to that innovation. But then when they take it a step further, it becomes that risk taking and kind of challenging themselves to create something purposeful. They ask questions and they respond internally, but also using that online community externally as well. What I think is also quite interesting are the similarities between Maslow's definition of self-actualization and the self-determination feature offered by possibility thinking. Even more importantly, though, is the idea that Scratch allows children to develop their ideas while being immersed in this kind of world and community of programmers and animators, and it really does open children up to the idea that they can kind of do anything they wanted, anything that they kind of can envisage in their mind, and really that links back to that imagination. So from this alone, we can see that Scratch is a really creative digital space that is not just for the individual. It also relies on that collaboration and that communal kind of learning, as it were. And this goes one step further because it is not only used to kind of develop mini C creativity, but it can also be used to develop little C creativity as well. That sharing of that work transforms that level of creativity into that kind of category of little c. And even more so, like I said at the beginning, it can even touch upon the kind of the fringe or the boundaries of big C creativity as well. This then brings us on to the 4Ps. Now, according to Craft 2011, the 4Ps are the key features of creative digital engagement, and they include possibility thinking and all of the features enveloped in that idea itself. It also involves the plurality of ideas, so the activities, the people, the places, the literacies, that kind of multidisciplinary learning I spoke about previously. It also involves the playfulness, so exploring, as we spoke about, as part of that possibility thinking, but again, more distinct kind of exploration would involve children connecting things and seeing what it would kind of do, or what the kind of outcomes would be. And then finally, we have participation. So that involves the kind of playing, creating and socializing within these digital spaces. And that's really quite dialogic and democratic because it involves sharing and listening to other people's ideas, and in turn, they're doing the same. So really, the 4Ps have a lot to do with the kind of ideas behind Scratch and really the kind of fundamentals as well. So then, in terms of the affordances of possibility thinking within the context of Scratch, it really involves moving away from that used future that Ayatollah spoke about in his writing, and seeking alternative futures. It's not necessarily that children are those victims, as some have written about, but they're more of it's more about that empowerment, and that offers its own opportunities for the future. Scratch is also individual, it's collaborative, it's communal. That community of people with those multiple identities really does offer something very unique to its users, and it allows them to not only learn from each other but also to ask questions together and form that kind of dialogue that's so crucial in not only in learning but also in creativity. And then finally we have wise humanizing creativity, and in Craft 2012 it refers to wise humanizing creativity as being grounded in a reciprocal relationship between the collaborative generation of new ideas and identities, fueled by dialogues between participants and the world outside. And that's really important because that draws upon the kind of the tools and the identities that Scratch provides, but also that community and that dialogue between others as well. So in conclusion, Scratch offers an array of different creative possibilities. We know that children may just use Scratch for digital play, so just putting things together and seeing what happens, all the way up to that kind of complex programming in which they're creating something very specific and they're using knowledge they've gained both in the program and from other people and also from school as well, and combining it to create something very important. But the outcomes of that thinking refer to both mini C and little c creativity. Those kind of that early play that's really curiosity, as it were, is very much an embodiment of that mini c creativity, and then that kind of develops into little c creativity when they're beginning to implement their ideas and tinker and really get to an outcome in which they're quite satisfied. It's the beginnings of that. But even still, there is some evidence to suggest that this may even develop further. So in some instances, creators on Scratch create something really amazing. So it could be a really complex 3D model that requires a lot of consideration and time and effort that goes into it. But that kind of steps onto the boundaries of big C creativity. So it allows users at different levels to create something really meaningful and purposeful, regardless of your level of skill. Further to this, I think that as well, Scratch enables multiple identities. It enables children to develop these identities. So it's not in a sense that you're you're just a programmer or a non-programmer. There are different levels. It's people programming for fun, people programming for other people programming really to kind of share their identities or their political values or even just things that they like. All of these different identities kind of add up to create this kind of community of makers, as it were, which are, a creative community that really kind of tries to support each other and say what they like and say what they don't, and that's really important. And then finally, children and young people will inevitably become empowered to create and be creative using Scratch. And I think that the skills that they learn in Scratch could be very applicable to other areas, but equally the kind of the personality kind of traits you learn as a result. So that kind of perseverance, that determination, those problem solving skills are also very important, if not more so than the actual products they produce themselves. They teach children to kind of stick with things and to look at different possibilities and use other people as a source of gaining other perspectives and even knowledge to support them in solving problems as well. So a very versatile tool altogether. So referring back to the question, I do think that Scratch is a very creative program. It enables children to be very creative in their own sense, and really it enables them to be whoever they want to be. And I think that as an outlet for creativity, I think that that is probably the most important thing. I hope you've liked my presentation. I know I've whizzed through it in some parts very quickly and others not, but please leave a comment and thank you for watching.